Welcome to the South Asian Literature and Art Festival, or SALA as it's popularly known, proudly produced by Art Forum SF. This festival is special because of you, because you chose to be here, to listen and to celebrate South Asian voices. A heartfelt thank you to all our sponsors for making this literature and art festival a reality. Their dedication to supporting writers, artists, and the exchange of ideas keeps creativity alive in our community. Quick housekeeping rules. Please silence your phones and no recordings. Everything will be on YouTube later, so you can relive the brilliance at your own pace. Also, please make sure that you do not leave any belongings or water bottles behind. There will be a 15-minute Q&A after the session, followed by book signing by the authors in the Florence Moore Courtyard by the bookstore. And lastly, as a volunteer-run organization, we at SALA are deeply grateful to all our volunteers, without whose support none of this would be possible. So let's dive in, open our hearts and minds, and enjoy the stories that remind us how art connects us all. The topic of today's discussion is Bandra to Colaba, Illustrations and Urban History, in which our keynote speakers, Rahul Mehrotra and Paul Fernandes, are in conversation with Vikram Chandra. Vikram Chandra is an acclaimed Indian author known for his storytelling that blends contemporary themes with rich cultural narratives. His best-selling novels, Sacred Games and Red Earth and Pouring Rain, have earned international recognition. Sacred Games is a noir thriller set in Mumbai, was adapted into a popular Netflix series. Chandra's work delves into the complexities of modern India, blending history, politics, and the intricacies of urban life. A graduate of Stanford University, he has also taught creative writing and literature. His contributions to South Asian literature have made him one of the most significant voices in contemporary fiction. And with that, let's welcome our panelists on stage.
Thank you for that very kind introduction. So normally, traditionally, what happens on these things is that I give an introduction to whoever's on the panel. But I thought today, rather than do that, I would have Rahul and Paul introduce themselves, tell us about themselves, and then also about their connection with the city of Bombay. Take it.
Thank you. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity to show our new project to you today. And I did try to tell Rahul that I can draw far better than I can speak, but he didn't listen to me. So here I am. I think I grew up in a very, very sleepy type of Bangalore in 1970. And in 1975 was my first time I went to Bombay, to that buzzing city. And in Bangalore, nothing really happened in those days. The most important thing that happened was family picnic, as Margaret would say, in the monsoon or something exotic as that. But Bombay was an eye-opener, and I think I just fell in love with the city the first time I stepped in there. And soon it became of use to me.
So, I'm Rahul Mehrotra. I was actually born in Bombay, but my father had this job which took him to all sorts of places. So, even though I was born, we left Bombay as a child and went back to Bombay summer holidays because my parents loved the city. And you go to Bombay from outside Bombay, your cousin look at you, oh yes, country bumpkins are coming. That's when I said, okay, if I'm going to do anything in my life, I'm going to come back to Bombay place. You know, growing up in India, that was the place you went to if you wanted to make something, do something. Everyone comes there to build the life. So, which is what Paul and I did. We were working together in Baroda, and then one day he says, I'm off the clock. So I'm with my job. I'm coming too. And that's how we spend time. That's how we make it. We're not competitive, we're just honest.
So, the book is beautiful and it's visual, it's a delight, and it's a tour of the city. But just before that, because some of the non-Bombay-walas won't know about this, what is the 11 line, what is the 11 number bus?
You know, every time I visited Bombay, I only planned on a long, long walk to different places which I planned to do. And that was route 11 on my two legs. But when one got a bit tired of walking, you looked up and you saw this wobbling. You saw this wobbling 11 limited double-decker bus coming down the road. And you just climbed up those steps and went to the front seat of that bus just to go to wherever the bus took you. And this was every time I visited Bombay in the last 30 years, I do that today. And there's so much you see from that front seat.
Yeah, it's a fascinating bus. You know, this is a bus route that goes from Bandra Station, which is North Bombay, all the way down to Colaba, which is the end of South Bombay, right? So people who take the train on the Western line, they go from Bandra, they take the train, they go to Churchgate, some place like that. But if you're working in Colaba, and you live in Bandra, this is what you want to take. You don't want to walk that. It's been running from the 70s. That's 50 years, 55 years. So it just blew our mind to think about it that somebody started their first job and took this bus. And that somebody was a retired bus is still running. That's the 11 limited bus.
Okay, now will you guys show us the beauty of the book and talk about the slides as we go back?
I'm going to try. It's what's that?
Hello?
Let me.
Pause tech support. It was working. It was working.
It was working a moment ago, and can I just step down and yeah?
That's route 11. And if you look in the front of that, there's Rahul. And right behind him is me.
So we started with this. This is the bus, okay? So it's a bus, like any other bus. And there are people in there. Lots and lots of people. This is Mumbai, you know, where somebody will give you a hand, pull you into the bus, right? Total stranger that pull you into the bus at great cost to their risk to their life, therefore not to the bar and do it. The same person will also push you out of the line to get to the bus before you. Right? This is the way. How can you not love it? You know? It's so beautiful.
And also, in the bus, you meet people from everywhere. And you know, the idea of this book is, I would think, to its audience is people from everywhere. People who know and love that city, people who don't know that city, they all there in that bus. And for them, this book, I would think, is a very, very simple introduction to a very complex subject of Bombay. And then there's a third part of that. People who travel that bus are people who are young, who don't know of the Bombay of our days. And for them, you know, there's this wonderful notion that I think of each time I see these young people in that bus. There's this notion of something called anticipated nostalgia, where you take something from the past and project it into your future so that you can sort of relive it when your time comes to live that future. And that interests me greatly when you draw for an audience who doesn't know what you're drawing about.
So here is that bus is for a certain segment of the population. This is what Bombay most people sort of know now. You know the roads that move on the water, right? These that connect Bandra to Colaba and Worli and all those places. But this is Bombay. In that little building there used to be the biggest, tallest building in the whole area, and today you can't even see it because there are others coming up. And those others building the tall ones, they think they're the tallest, well, they're going to be dwarfed pretty soon, right? Isn't that how it works? You've seen that, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the grand promenade for the expensive people used to live. They are now little people.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But the fishing village is still there. And that's Mumbai, you know, there's a fishing village and there are these huge buildings there.
So, one of those small buildings is where Renu, my wife Renu, lived. When I first met her, and I thought I was marrying this big shot lady, and now look what's happened to her house. And the snaking, the new, you know, the roads in the foreground is the new coastal road, which is making such a fantastic difference to traveling that city today. When you try to draw a landmark that people know and people have seen 1,000 times, each time you see it quite differently. And to draw something that is, you've got to go all around it and decide where you want to draw it from. You want to draw it in the morning or the night or midnight. And well, I even went to the top of the tall Taj building to look down and see what you can see. So I chose this thing from a boat to draw this picture.
And so you have a monument, right? Everyone who lives in Mumbai knows the Gateway of India, right? And then what struck us was so many people come there. So many people come there. So many lives intersect there. And people come from all parts of society. They come there and they come there to see this thing. And I don't know if any of them, many of them may not even know why the gate is there to take home and then look at it. And a lot of people who live in Mumbai get into a port, get out of Mumbai, and go to Elephant Cave or someplace like that, right? This is truly like a gateway to India kind of place. You see people come and go.
So drawing the landmark in itself was never enough for me. I needed to add life around it and add people. And of course, in Bombay, that's not enough. So you have the horses, the chariots, the birds, and the pigeons, and the dogs, and all that needs to be part of the pictures that make up that city. And when you start looking at people more closely, and I've often got caught staring at them, I look way past. But when you draw a person, he's got to sort of mix with what you're drawing in the background too. And Bombay's people are so different from Bangalore's people and from America today. So you have to be there to see what you want to draw. And when you draw a few people and put them into your picture, they've got to become, they've got to become complex with each other, so that they tell a story in some gentle way, in some light humor, so that somebody else can relive that picture in their own fashion at their own time.
You don't see this. I mean, you can go stand in front of it, you won't see it. Because there will be hoardings, there will be buses, there will be people, there will be everything. But if by some miracle you are able to get a glimpse of this at some point in time,
You should say what these places are, like this. Some people here have the misfortune not to know what this is.
Sorry. So this used to be the Victoria terminus, the train station. Now it's called the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj terminus. It's the train station for local trains and for out-of-town trains. Right? It's this huge complex, and there's more behind it. A mile down this station is a mile marker that says 1 mile this way. Right? And the mile marker is still around. It's still around. This is the station this way. Yeah. Or we just, how can you get? We just look at this building and it's an amazing place.
And if you ever visit Bombay soon, there is a new walk that's planned to go to the top of the main turret up there, and it's quite amazing. I'm going to do that, but I go next.
This is typically what you will see. Yeah? There'll be a beautiful Art Deco building with these very graceful curves and balconies. And next to that balcony, you will see the grill that is ugly, but it's very functional. It's an elevator lift that then is there. And buses and taxis and people. This is what you see. And when this art is when you see the beautiful thing. Or you can say, I see something here, There are these people here.
So, well, as a cartoonist, one is always looking for the truth of what you're looking at. And not quite what you think is the truth, but what is the genuine truth of that story. And the greater the truth, the greater the humor that comes out of it. So that's what I try to go and find each time you decide to draw a specific spot. You find the truth around it. And of course, humor is another, it's a vast subject, and you've got to choose humor very delicately when you're drawing a picture for many people. And well, to choose the right humor takes some time.
I don't know what Paul was thinking when he drew this picture. Yeah, when I saw it, the first thing that came to my mind is, why is a lady holding flowers? That man must have done something wrong. Yeah.
So Rahul's story in our book tells you what the wrong was. I was trying to say, humor is exactly like the ocean that surrounds Bombay. You have the shallow parts, where you have gentle slapstick humor, and you can go down and further into the deeper parts and find all kinds of humor to choose from. And of course, the deepest parts around Bombay's ocean will take you to satire, where you have a deep need to understand the subject of what you're drawing. I watched that policeman for an hour or two because I had nothing to do. I love watching people. And the most important thing he did in that 2 hours was to take a photograph of these lovely tourists who happen to walk past. This guy here, I don't know who he was or where he was going, but they are all going purposefully to do a very hard day's work in Bombay, a very beautiful day's work in Bombay.
I remember reading in one of your books about the description of a job, the room in the job, and the way you described in one room where they move stuff around and things like that. They live in that little nice space. And really that's what came to mind when I looked at this picture. We said, okay, this man has to be living in a job, in a small place. And he may not be, he may have been something else, but you know what? If the story is as true as his life, actually, right? There are these tiny places in and around Fountain. This is Flora Fountain. There are these tiny places hidden away that you don't see where people live and work.
So, when I drew this picture 10 years ago, but Rahul has taken each of these characters and given them such a life. He's given them, each story dives very deeply into a precious moment in these people's lives, and you get to know them very well for that instant.
This is Chor Bazaar or Shore Bazaar. This is, they say you can find anything, right? And growing up, when I was a child, I heard that somebody went there to get a hubcap for a Mercedes Benz, and they got a hubcap for a Mercedes Benz. It was just theirs from another wheel, right? And they paid money. I've heard the story. I don't know if it's true. Great.
One of the great mistakes I've made was to tell Renu, my wife, to come to me one morning to Chor Bazaar. And I couldn't get her out of there for the whole day. She went into each shop. Our house in Bangalore is full of things from here. But it's a special place. It's changing so fast now. But this is how it used to be. Very wonderful people there.
Yeah. When I saw this drawing, I just looked at it and said, okay, these great guys, these tough Navy people walking around and saluting, and that ambassador makes a big noise, doesn't move as fast as a Maruti. All those things, right? But the Navy's still there, the Navy's the Navy. And there's a Singwala right there too, he doesn't care. He's moving around, he's going to sell his peanuts and he's going to move on and he's not impressed. He's not impressed. Right? Pakistani Navy can be afraid of us, but he's not afraid of it. He's not afraid. Right. This is the Bombay, right? This is the person you see. He is the person who he gets you the train ticket that you want because yes, he also picks your pocket. And he's the same person, right? And there's for every lucky person who meets him, there's an unfortunate victim somewhere.
There's always a very, very small selection of what there is in this book, and we couldn't talk about all of them. But each one takes you to another part of the city, another community in that city, and you find there's so much wonder and beauty when all these communities mix together as one. And that's the greatness of Mumbai. Harmonious mix of communities.
You know that the Iranian restaurant, right? Where they're still around. They're on their way out, The children don't want to do what their parents did or something like that, but they're still there, right? This community is still around.
Every time I go to Bombay, I go to a specific Iranian restaurant near the fountain and sit there for hours and hours and hours. Nobody is bothered about you. Every 2 hours you get a cup of tea or a bottle of beer, and everyone's happy with you. And from there you see Bombay pass by in all its glory. Another much fussy restaurant. Oh. And another.
This is the military cafe. One day, Paul and I walked there, and we sat down, we ordered food, and then when we come out, Paul says, that tree is gone. And that's when I noticed that they cut off the tree because they needed parking place for the car. Yeah? But the restaurant is still there. The restaurant is still there, and the synagogue behind it is still there, and the Chabad center is right there. Except, in front of the synagogue now, there's this armored vehicle parked there with a machine gun going to get you. But it's still there. It's all there.
So when you just look at that tree that's gone and you don't see it anymore, you realize that everything must change. Even those great Portuguese forts will change. And when you look at the city, all these things have made its home for you. And when they change, part of your home changes too. And you feel a sense of loss. That familiarity is gone. So people shift away, people come in, new people come in, and the cycle is beautiful to watch.
And places like this are such a haven. I have a friend who's a Jain. The giants are not supposed to be God, anything that excites them, right? But he comes here to the restaurant, and one day I remember asking him, hey, if you're a Jain, how do you go to this Iranian restaurant? He tells me, well, there are some exceptions. And then he tells me, you know what a giant omelette is? It's an omelette without garlic, okay? So, lots of people, this is a haven for people, all kinds of not putting it at home, they come here.
The city of great dreams. You find people who come there to dream about Bollywood and being part of it. One or two make it, the rest don't. And the rest who don't have their own stories to live. I mean, Bombay is still a beautiful, welcoming place for those who don't, and supports them tremendously. I don't know if you get it or not, but
But you did something, right? And you wonder what happened, right? What's the trajectory of this person's life, and how they went about it. And each one of them is probably a story that would make a movie, but they don't get into the movie. But their stories are beautiful too. Yeah.
so I think, what the city has really introduced to me is this whole business of slowing down in a very fast moving place. And if you slow down enough, you see everything around you. Otherwise, you can't. So the only way is to walk, and walking takes you into places no other way can take you. And then you see things. You can. Of course, one can Google all this and you see it too, but it's not the same thing. If you live it, then you can draw it. All Rahul's friends, I don't know them.
That's about what we have actually. Process life. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so we are discussing logistics. I want to talk to you as well. I just want to ask you, yes, one or two more questions. One is, it's the story of a million cities, right? A million stories, right? How did you hone in on which ones you want to reflect? It's a difficult question, but I have to ask.
So I'll answer it, right? So I sat down and I looked at all the drawings that Paul had done, right? I went to India once and Paul had been walking around like crazy. So I started looking at the drawings, and each time I looked at the drawing, there was this one little thing somewhere that one character, one place, one something, and then I right back to Paul. A one-liner that said, how about something like this? Totally off the wall, talking about one character who's there. And that would set him off. And I'd suddenly get 15 other drawings coming in. Of that character doing all those things. And that's how it went, Just some drawing to speak to you, and you come up with something, and then all takes off, and we have a story.
Well, there is so much of Bombay in terms of its locations and landmarks that you can't avoid drawing. You have to stop. You have to spend enough time looking at the minor details, the smaller parts, and you have to draw it. There's no way out. And the people who are around these places are equally, demanding that you draw them. So these are not a lifetime also.
So also, and I guess, I don't know if this is a loaded question or not. My family, we moved to Bombay in 1970, and we've been there ever since. So I've seen the city change as you guys have, right? I mean, in many things, in many ways. And you talked about this, the tree that is gone. But I mean, despite our nostalgia for Bombay that used to be, do you think it's gone in a good direction or bad direction or middling direction?
It has to go forward. And every time it goes forward, it gives you something better. Because we are all getting better. That's what we do. Our cities are getting better. And what's in the past has to break away and fall down. It can't be kept forever. So I look forward to the next years of breaking down before it becomes better again. It's part of the growth of any big city.
We're trying to, what you say is absolutely true. Everything that's there is going away. It's going away. And yes, you can sit down and mourn the loss, right? And that is okay. One does mourn the loss of something. I think life would be happier for you to celebrate memories, and it's as simple as that. Right? I don't know if it is right, good, or bad. Yeah, can't tell.
Sorry. Say something else. Right? No? Okay, so as a writer, it's a difficult, and as an artist, writing a book is great, right? It's a grind. Just maybe out of reassurance for myself, how long did it take to create this?
Well, to put it together took 2 years or maybe 3. But I think this book first started 45 years ago when, somebody my wife knew in the Taj who used to work there asked me to do a few drawings of Colaba and those busy, beautiful streets so that their guests could have some information to walk around and look for things. And it seemed to me a very beautiful idea, but I wasn't then equipped to think about it possibly. And now it's happened 25 years later. So it's taken that 45 years, I think, for Rahul and me.
Yeah, we are just passing through. Our view of this place is literally like people in the bus watching things go by. The depth you're talking about is different, right? Live it, breathe it, you grow up in it. It's a different experience. Ours is, we find this beautiful. The guy looks at us and he's, are you crazy? Yes, I mean, it's beautiful. Where are you getting the color here, right? So,
one last quick question. Because,
Mike, we go.
sorry. Who do you think is the audience for this book? Is it just like us Bombay people, or is it others?
No, it's a very wide audience, I would think. People who love that city, who know it so well, and people who know of Bombay but don't know it at all. You know, and when you walk down and see something you think you know so well, you look at it for the next time and you realize you don't know it at all. And that's what uh, a humorous take on a picture can do for you. That you see it from a different light, a different story, your own story, each time you see it again and again and again.
I'm going to take a little push at that, okay? Just step out. This is my thing. When I was growing up, I read a poem, T.S. Eliot's Wasteland. And it said, April is the cruelest month. And I stopped and said, what is he talking about? April's not a cruelest month. It's not my reality. I mean, April's fine. You know, hey, you want to see a cruel month? Come in May. Right? I mean, growing up in India, that's what other people did. My point is, we get trained into appreciating things, right? We don't appreciate some things, right? These are stories about a city of 25 to 30 million hopes and dreams. Some of the things that I really hope, some of the things it talks about are applicable to other big cities, right? And it should, some parts of it will resonate with people who live in big cities, you know? And that's the goal. That's the goal, right?
Great. So, do you guys have questions? Please go ahead.
Thank you all so much. I love this idea. I love this idea that anticipated nostalgia. So when I said that, I indoctrinated my kids into bringing that boy back to Bombay and dancing in the monsoon rain, Friday night. Which is great. I would love to know what are your moments of anticipated nostalgia.
Each one of us has so many memories of our youth and our parents and the way life went, the way we lived our life in those days. And there are few things that you want to relive every other day because of their beauty, like a grandmother's recipe or a spot or a tilting roof or anything or a picture. And if you keep that in your mind for your future, you can, I believe, relive that thought in all its purity, in all its authenticity, when that time comes to you, and give you the time to think later. Which will give you the comfort that comfort gave you then. Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead, please.
It's not going the opposite direction.
Mike.
I just have to share, I'm going the opposite direction and saying, I'm not from Bombay, I only visited a couple of times, but these stories transcend the country of India, and the lives of people can be anywhere in the world, and that makes them really special to me. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I also been to Bombay a few times, and what an experience it was. And every time I do see it changing, even in my limited focus, I think what the book offers to me is when I return, I'm going to see more. I'm going to look at more of the details, understand the dynamics of that city better. And the other point I'd like to make is I live in San Francisco. And yes, that last comment about this book can transcend into other big cities and the changes I've seen, because I lived there in the 70s also, you know, it can relate to multiple lives. So Thank you for a beautiful book.
Thank you for
And
saying
a
that.
cool story.
Makes our day.
And Rahul.
Thank you.
Thank you for this wonderful book. I've never been to Bombay. I'd like to know when you're going to set up your tour along that bus route. And when you do, can you rent that bus as well? Thank you.
Yeah.
Question?
I love both the stories and all the artwork. I'm wondering if you're willing to share the tools of your artwork. What do you do normally? Is it always watercolors? Do you use certain pens, some magic paints?
Well, for many years, I worked on our dining table at home, and some of these drawings even have some dal and green tea for the trees in them. Well, but the process of approaching a drawing can be very simple, and most of them are watercolor. But the actual painting of the drawing, of the actual painting comes much after you've understood what you want to do, or the watercolor doesn't forgive you. There's no rethinking at that stage. So I've realized now that after a long time that the idea that you're thinking of has to be seen so clearly in your mind in its entirety before you start that watercolor. And the idea, well, takes its time. It can't be in a rush. There's no structure to it. There's nothing that tells you you're right or you're wrong. So all you know is something that needs to be with you and you need to hold it tight till it becomes drawable. Sorry, am I talking absolute rubbish?
Thank you for that. And thank you for your book. I'm on the nostalgia side. I remember sitting in the bus and I could see a mosque down below on one side and a train station on the other side. And just thinking about how music with English, Tamil, Hindi, and feel like I'm the center of the universe. But I want to thank Vikram for coming today. I want to say that I read your book when it came out, and I read it at the same time that my niece was reading it, and we had an intergenerational conversation. And then I lost the book, and I bought it again and read it again, and I recommend the book.
I just want to say that what really comes across in this book for me is a labor of love. You know, there's so much love in the writing and in the drawing, and I think your process is also very fascinating. The fact that you were kind of drifting off of each other over so many years, I think that's a fascinating way for the book to come together. It's truly a labor of love. Thank you.
I showed this book to Chitra a year ago when she came to Bangalore, and she looked at some rough pages as it was being worked on, and she said it's, why don't you give it some breathing space and have a spacer here and a gap there or a breather here. And I called Rahul the next day and I said, this seems like something you should think about. And he said something interesting. Bombay doesn't give you any space. There are no breathers. There's no. So the book is fine.
I want to address something you said about Vikram, right? So here we were accepted to Sala, and we were thinking about it, and then we get this message that says, "Oh, and by the way, the person talking to you will be Vikram Chandra." My heart sank, really sank. I said, "Oh my goodness, there's a 1,200-page book sitting here that's all about Bombay that I have read 3 times, And that man, I'm going to talk to that man about Bombay. And I have to keep myself. But thank you. You've made it, you've been so graceful about this. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the book.
Hi. So this is like more of a comment because and I'm not sure if y'all have already addressed it, but I just wanted to say that lately, whenever I've been to Bombay in the last like 5 to 10 years, it has become a great culinary destination. The food scene in Mumbai, I guess I should say it. I'm showing how long ago I was there. So it has absolutely exploded. So it was always great street food, etc. But now it's like all different varieties of food. So for people who are not that familiar with it, so maybe I wasn't sure if y'all have addressed that. So as a cultural place for food, it was surprisingly fantastic.
Well, if I may invite you to join me on this bus, one fine day in Bombay. Every stop takes you in 10 directions to good food. To great food, and well, that's the end of all my hopes is a good meal somewhere.
Rahul, born genius. Vikram, big fan as always. Who inspired you growing up? Was there a particular sketch artist, / cartoonist, / illustrator, / painter? I know how I started my mornings with the Times of India on page 1.
Well, in Bombay, it's the city itself that inspires you, and of course, teeming multitudes. Each one going about life, grabbing it by the horns. That's my first inspiration over there. But amongst those billions are two people, special people, Mario Miranda and R.K. Lakshman, who for half a century, entertained a billion Indians and made them smile over, just avoiding no barriers of language, no barriers of intellect, and that's my inspiration.
I had one question about the illustration. So I do not come from Mumbai, but I've visited almost every year because that ends up being the hub to go from US to India and then to my city, which is like way far in Bihar. And whenever I visit all the cities, all the spots that you showed in the illustrations, I have never seen it empty as that. So it's it's obviously from a very different era. And I was curious about the stories that does that also follow the time when you used to live in those neighborhoods, or is it more of a present day story?
Bombay is never empty. It never sleeps. It's always full, right? So the illustrations are illustrations, right? They're ideals, right? As are the stories, right? I don't live there, so I don't know if these things still happen there, right? But as they say, who is to say they don't happen there, right? And that's the stance we take. Is that correct? And people have told us that, oh, you're talking about Bombay that does not exist anymore. And Paul and I walked through a place called Crawford Market, which is, sort of used to be some sort of a center there. And across from the Crawford Market is this dense market, buildings, and whatever. And there's this theatre called the Edward Theatre, built in, I don't know, 100 years ago, 150 years ago. It's still there. It's not functioning, but it's still there. And across from it is this mile marker that says you're 1 mile away from the center of Bombay. That marker is still there. But the center of Bombay has moved, right? I mean, it's not there. And behind the mile marker is an Iranian restaurant. And you will still get raspberry soda there. So it's there. You just can't take your SUV inside. That's right.
This one person, oh, sorry. Oh, well, when you come from a city like Bangalore, which is essentially green, it's a city of beautiful trees. Everything is close to you, and you can only draw things that you can see close to you. At the moment you go to Mumbai, suddenly you see the horizon, and this palette of green that you're used to having suddenly changes to every shade of blue. The sea and the distance at the horizon. But the moment you shift your gaze marginally anywhere in Bombay, you drown in the sea of humanity and every other possible color you can think of. And that's the greatness of, dealing with people in small areas. Those are to each other.
Thank you all so much. My question for you is, you've illustrated and written about the multitudes that exist in the city. Have you ever felt that you have potentially missed something very central to a place or a person? I suppose what I'm alluding to is, have you ever felt a sense of almost imposter syndrome, right, about depicting a place as it should be depicted? How do you contend with that as both authors and writers?
Yeah.
You always miss not just one thing, you miss 500 things. Because there's no space, right? And every day there's some new thing that's coming up, something new being born, something new dying, right? So yeah, it's inevitable, right? And so you just have to pick and choose, right? You have a limited frame, and in that frame, you find your discoveries, and you find the things that move you, and you tell the story. 28, okay. Last question. 2 minutes. Back there?
I'm from Bombay, I still call it Bombay. Every year when I go back, because my parents still live, I grew up in South Bombay. So I feel it has changed, but one place that hasn't changed, and I love going, is Colaba Causeway. Near Regal Cinema Side. You walk there, it's so much color, so many people, little, it's not even like 10 feet, hundreds of people. And you can really do good pockets there. The boarding, go at 11